this part of the planet. I've been 9,000 miles away for over a month or so. Though you came from the womb of another, I will care for you. Life is your sister, love is your brother. I am your mother too. I am your father too. We are your family too. Can you feel that in here? This is like a family. Yeah. When I was here in December, I talked about how family changes from kind of like biological family sometimes to chosen family, the family that we choose as we get older, right? And this song that we just sang, it's by Kevin Moore and Zuriani. Kevin Moore is the real name for Kev Mo, in case any of you know of him. And it's on its surface, it's about adoption. But for me, it has a much bigger meaning. It has the connotation of being embraced and then embracing others that may have been total strangers at one time. You know, and this is true for people who adopt a new community, like people that come to a church for the first time. You know, taking that risk to kind of jump in and see what it's like. Or immigrants coming into the country and, you know, being in a whole new environment. I think of the experience of community as being one of the crucial needs that we have in life, as important as food and shelter, and air and water, all of it. I think community is right up there. It really is. And I believe that we are each other's sisters and brothers and family. But having that sense of community does involve taking a risk sometimes, at first. And, you know, just taking that risk to jump into something new or accepting somebody new into your existing community. It's all about relationships, right?
Yeah.
It's all about relationships. Not just romantic partner relationships, but all kinds of relationships. In our culture, when we talk about relationships, the emphasis usually seems to focus on romantic relationships, which in Greek philosophy is called eros. And this type of relationship, you know, we're kind of programmed to kind of think that way through the movies that we watch and TV shows and the songs that we might hear on the radio. You know, that songs like the Billy Walker song, "I'm so miserable without you, it's like having you around." Strike a chord there. Or the Joe DiPietro song, "I love you, you're perfect, now change." That's a real song. And then there's that one by Roger Miller, "If you won't be my number one, then number two on you." Can you imagine writing a song? It's not good when we get our understanding of love from popular music. Would you agree? But the Greeks highlighted 7 other types of love besides romantic love. They talk about storge, S-T-O-R-G-E, familial love, which, you know, we all understand, loving your parents, your children, and pragma, enduring love, having that enduring love for somebody that you've known for a long time. And another one that the Greeks talked about was mania love or obsessive love, like stalking. Anybody here ever experienced that? Yeah? I see a couple heads going up with that. Then there's philautia, or self-love, which, depending on the context, can have a positive connotation or a negative connotation. And then there's agape, or selfless love, that service in honor of some cause or some organization or group or a particular person. And then there's philia, Philia, affectionate love without romantic attraction. And last but not least, ludus, which is playful love, that is teasing, laughing together, that kind of love. So there's all these different kinds of love besides just romantic love. And they all imply a relationship of some sort. And it turns out that relationships are more important than just about anything. There's a research study that was done in Harvard. It's the longest research study that's ever been done in history. It started in 1938, and it's still going on. And they followed 3+ generations of people in the study, a whole bunch of people. And it's changed, the staff doing the research has changed over the years, and they just keep it going and keep it going. The goal was to find the answer to one question. If you could change one thing about your life in order to become a happier person, what would you do that would make the biggest difference? What do you think would make the biggest difference? Money? Job? Relationships? Health? Or what? That was the question. And they followed these people and they checked in with them regularly. And their mothers and their fathers and their children and then their grandchildren, and they keep on checking in with them. And what they found was, and by the way, how did they define happiness? It was defined as the feeling you have when you know you're having a good life, a decent one, a meaningful life. That's what they defined happiness to be. And the study looked at a lot of variables. And after 8 decades, it was clear. If you want to be happy, invest in your relationships. That's what all the data boiled down to. As Dr. Robert Waldinger said, we found that the strongest predictors of who not just stayed happy, but who was healthy as they went through life, the strongest predictors were the warmth and the quality of their relationships with other people. He said that nurturing healthy relationships helps to regulate stress. And that's a big deal, right? Because we know now from scientific studies that stress is a factor in all kinds of disease. In heart disease, in cancer, in autoimmune disorders, in so many things that we deal with sometimes in our lives. Well, I thought this study was really interesting, but I had a problem with it. Because, you see, even though I love to get up and speak and perform music and that sort of thing, there's a part of me that loves my cave time. Actually, a little bit of an introvert, even though it doesn't seem like it on the surface. And that's one of the reasons why Missy and I get along so good, because we each love cave time. We have our caves, and we respect each other's cave time. You know? You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
So what happens if you're an introvert in this situation? Well, the good news, as far as Dr. Waldinger is concerned, is he said those people just need fewer other people in their lives than the party animals like that. And so it's really up to each of us to kind of check in with ourselves and see what works. What's energizing for you rather than exhausting or frightening in your relationships? And how many people is good for you? And what kinds of contacts work for you? So I guess the introverts of the world are okay after all. But it's not just about casual relationships. It's about cultivating connections. It's about making time. It's about giving and receiving. And since I tend to work alone in my work, all the different things I do, whether it's writing or or teaching classes, preparing for classes and negotiating leases for spaces for where I teach my classes and everything. I do that all by myself. And I am a guy, and guys have a tendency to not seek out and nurture relationships as much as women. Isn't it true?
Yes.
Did you notice that we have this thriving women's group in this church? There was a men's group in this church at one time, but you see where it is now. So I remind myself when I sing songs like, I get by with a little help from my friends, I can try with a little help from my friends, I'm going to fly with a little help from my friends. That helps to kind of spark that wanting to nurture my relationships more when I sing those songs. And now I know that there's science behind this. A lot of science. A lot of data. And Dr. Waldinger said that the study showed that we can start at any age. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can start cultivating relationships at any time. So how do you nurture your relationships? I'm really just curious to hear. How do you nurture your relationships?
I cook for people.
You cook for people.
I eat her food.
What else do you do?
I talk to people.
You talk to people. Yeah.
You deliberately give people time. Some of a little bit here and a little bit there on your time.
You give
Or a lot.
your time.
Or a lot. Whatever's needed.
Little or a lot. You give your time. What else?
Hug.
I hug.
You hug. You hug.
Share joys.
Share joys. Yeah. What else?
Cuddle.
Cuddle. Yeah.
Pray with.
Pray with.
Ask for help.
Ask for help.
Receive help.
Receive help. Yeah.
Accept help. Yeah.
Accepting.
Accept help.
Yeah. It is a giving and a receiving. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can nurture our relationships. How do you think you could cultivate your connections and make more time for healthy relationships? What do you think you could do?
Turn off the TV.
Turn off the TV. Ooh.
Put your phone down.
Put your phone down.
Just make the effort.
Make the effort.
I second that.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone and call. So put the phone up and then pick it up. Yeah. Yeah.
Texting either.
There's a lot of ways we can do that. In the Kate Wolf song, we sang, "Give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and the laughter. Give yourself to love." And sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes it's hard to accept the tears and the laughter. It takes a risk. It does involve taking a risk, at least at first, to meet new people, to invest in relationships. My brother was a really tough guy from the Bronx. And he lived the life of a professional musician. Crazy hours, touring all over the country with these big productions and getting into drugs and alcohol a lot over the years. And the way things worked out, he was dumped by his first wife. And then he was dumped by his second wife. And then he got dumped by his first wife again. It's unfortunate but true. He became a hermit. And when I lived in Dallas, he lived in my house for, 12 years. And he stayed in his room. And he basically was a hermit. And he just would come out every now and then to put a microwave dinner in the microwave and go back to his room and do his thing. And he didn't want to take that risk anymore. He didn't want to invest his energy in relationships anymore. And the bottom line was he lived a very lonely life. And when he passed away in 2005, the only people that were there was me and my mother. And that was it. And it was very, very sad to see. He was a very tough guy, but his fear of getting rejected and taking that step to interact, to make time, to cultivate relationships just wasn't there. In the Chet Power song, Get Together, we sang at the beginning of the service, he says, you hold the key to love and fear all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. And what is that key that can unlock love or fear? I think it's the willingness. The willingness to take a risk. The willingness to fail and try again. The willingness to set an intention, to take action, right? And not get distracted by so many things. That's hard in this life sometimes. The most challenging relationship for me, it's not Missy, by the way. My most challenging relationship is with my son. My son lives in Australia. Some of you saw pictures, I think, from when I was down there. Our pattern over many years, he's 39 years old now, is that I lecture, he resists, puts up a wall, and there's no communication. That's our pattern. And we've gotten really good at that pattern over the years. And when I was down there in Australia, I was down there for 4 weeks, and Missy was down there for a while as well, and we had a wonderful time with him and his girlfriend. We did all kinds of fun things together, and lots of good conversations, and it was really a good time. And it had been 4 years since I'd seen him because of all the lockdowns. They had really, really severe lockdowns down in Australia during the better part of COVID. And Jeremy is a very intelligent man, very successful man. But I noticed some lifestyle habits that I thought were maybe detrimental. His diet, his sleep patterns, his environment, his relationships, and how he dealt with his relationships in lack of activity. And I was filled with worry about his quality of life. What's going to happen to him? You know, his mom has diabetes in her family. Is he going to get diabetes? And I have Alzheimer's in my family. Is he going to get Alzheimer's? And and I had all these fears running around in my head like soup, a really bad soup. and it doesn't help that I've spent like the last 48 years of my life studying about health. I'm a researcher. And I've been literally studying about health and how to take care of oneself to have an optimal quality of life for 48 years. And he just doesn't want to hear it. He builds that wall. So I had all this worry, but before I left Australia, I wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with him, which we often do before I leave to come back up to the States. And his response was, classic dad. But he agreed, and I agonized about what I was going to say for days. How can I express what I want without triggering the wall? And then I remembered that the purpose of relationships is twofold. One is to trigger that feeling of love within you. That is your essence. Yes?
Yes.
And the second purpose of love is to trigger everything that is unlike love to come to the surface.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
That's the tears part. To trigger to the surface so that you can look at it so that you can process it and hopefully move beyond it. And once I remembered that, I surrendered and I did some true forgiveness work. And I let go a lot of my belief systems about what could happen. By the way, remember what the initials for belief systems are, right? Yeah? And I let go of attachment to my fear and my worry and my self-righteousness and my need to be right and my tendency to judge and criticize and my wanting to control and wanting approval at the same time. I've let go of this stuff over and over and over again. And when we finally talked, initially the wall came up. There was that resistance, and he expressed to me, oh, you're just going into this and doing this all for yourself. And I focused on my heart. And I remembered, and I told him, no, Jeremy, a lot of this belief systems, this BS, is my stuff, I know it, and I'm processing through it. But I'm coming to you from this place of love. I will always love you exactly as you are. I love you now exactly as you are. And that's always the way it's going to be. And I kept on returning to that feeling of love over and over and over again. And gradually, he started to soften. And I could feel the wall coming down. You know, like the wall in between Eastern and Western Europe came down in the early 90s. And I could feel him starting to communicate and talk and discuss a little bit. And I talked about how all these different areas of life, like sleep patterns and diet and activity and environment and relationships, affect my quality of life. And then he started talking a little bit about how some of these things affect his quality of life. What maybe what I could do better, or he could do better. And it was like something shifted, you know, just kind of shifted. Can't snap your fingers when you got fingerprints. You know, we enjoyed the rest of that day together, and he was very lively and enthusiastic and communicative, and it was just wonderful. And I realize it's just one layer of the onion. I realize it's a long process, and he still has that ability to trigger what's unlike love in me to come to the surface. But it was a start. It was a start. I was willing to give myself to love. And the other key to giving yourself to love is to be loved. Right? And we're going to sing a song to kind of bring us into that space of being loved. So I invite you to turn down the lights for a minute and close your eyes and take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. Closer and closer each breath to my heaven. as you take each breath, focus on your heart, on your sacred heart, that part of you that's just behind and just a little bit more central to the heart, the physical heart. Breathe into that sacred heart and feel that love pouring through you, washing through you. Breathe into that sacred heart. Imagine yourself at the beach on a nice, calm day, nice warm day, breathing in, smelling the salt in the sea, breathing into your heart, walking on the sand, feeling the sand between your toes, all the little muscles in your feet working, hearing the breeze and the sound of the waves, the gentle waves splashing on the shore, breathing into your heart, feeling that love wash through you. Each wave, as it comes in, it comes up through your body, fills your torso, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, your neck, your head, breathing in, feeling that love pouring through you, down through your hips and your legs and your feet, washing through you, knowing that in all your relationships, at any moment, you can choose to tap into that space of love in your sacred heart and experience that while you're talking with them, while you're being with them, no matter what the context of the relationship is. Breathing in, feeling that love. Closer and closer each breath to my beloved. Closer and closer each breath to my beloved. Let's bring the lights back up. Come back to this place and time. Knowing that you can go back to that space of love at any time that you choose to is an empowering thing. That's the thing that I remind myself over and over again. It's how empowering that is to have that choice. It's not that we have to choose this or that. It's not about good or bad or right or wrong. It's just knowing that you have the choice, and then sometimes to take that risk, having that willingness. And one of the other aspects of love that the Greeks talked about that I mentioned was that philia, that affectionate love without romantic attraction. And I love that concept of love because, we are programmed to think about attraction as always involving romantic love, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I discovered this a long time ago that it's okay to have attraction without expectation of any kind. And it's absolutely a wonderful, wonderful feeling. To have that feeling of love for somebody with no expectation. And I wrote a song about it.
talking now.
Yes. Well,
Put your hands. I'm ready to talk to my son. You'll put that up there, please.
oh yeah.
All right, notice how you feel as we take this into our prayer box time. And Della will come up. You might help Della get on the mic when she comes up here. And I want to apologize. I'm forgetting to put out the songbooks in case you want to have something to write on with your prayers, but we'll do that too. Number 3, Chrissy.
I invite you now to turn inward as we enter this time of prayer. There are prayer slips near you. If you do not see one, raise your hand and an usher will bring one to you. Please include the first name of those you want to hold in prayer, including your name if the prayer is for yourself. Affirmative prayer is the foundation of the unity movement, and it reflects the certainty that we are each being led to our highest good despite temporary challenges. As Charles and Myrtle Fillmore learned and experienced, affirmative prayer brings about healing, prosperity, and spiritual awakening. In this holy moment, we pause to breathe and open. We open our minds to know that the nature of God and our divine nature are one. We open our hearts to experience the silent yet certain reality that we are not our circumstances or our experiences. We are wholly divine, and all is well with our soul. When your prayer request is complete, please raise your hand and Aurora will bring the prayer box to you. My name is Della, and I serve as one of your prayer chaplains. Following today's service, Aurora and I will be available at the front of the sanctuary for private prayer. And now take a deep breath, breathing into the stillness of your heart. Together we invoke the presence of God to move through us, as us, in the prayers offered here today. And so it is. Amen.
want to invite now our board president to come and take us in, oh, there she is, into offertory time.
Thank you. Really honored to serve here. I really can't, I can't say that enough. I'm really honored. So prosperity means